So most men waste their best years committing to the wrong woman, the kind who drain your energy, sabotage your goals, leave you wondering if love is even worth it. The truth is only 20% of women are actually worth your full commitment. So the question here is, are you even looking in the right direction? In this video, I'm going to show you how to spot the right kind of woman, the one who adds peace and not chaos. I'll break down the traits that separate the 20% from the 80 and give you real-life examples to watch out for. And by the end, you'll know exactly who's worth your time and who is just a pretty distraction. Jessica Au here. Welcome to the channel, the 80-20 reality of modern dating. Let's set the record straight. Not all women are built for commitment. And if you don't learn to tell the difference, you'll just keep giving relationship energy to women who were only ever meant to be a fling. Truth is, roughly 80% of women are not prepared or willing to be long-term partners. They may be beautiful, they may be sexy, they may even be fun to talk to. But when it comes to the stuff that makes a relationship last, emotional maturity, loyalty, respect, vision, they fall flat. Because too many women today are taught how to attract a man and not how to keep one. They know how to post a thirst trap on IG, how to flirt over text, how to play hard to get, but they don't know how to build something solid with a man of value. And unfortunately, most men don't find this out until they're already in too deep. You commit, you invest your time, your energy, maybe even your money, and before you know, you're stuck in a situation that feels more like a job than a relationship. You're constantly trying to prove yourself, avoid arguments, win her affection back, etc. If it sounds familiar, that's because too many of you have confused chemistry with compatibility. And in today's dating market, that confusion is actually very dangerous. Now, don't get me wrong, not every woman. N is a red flag. But in modern dating, especially in your 20s and 30s, the majority of women you'll come across are still figuring themselves out. They're not emotionally grounded. They don't know what they want. And worst of all, they want you to commit to potential and not reality. And guess what? You're not a rehab center. You're not a therapist. You're not here to fix anyone. You're here to build with someone who's ready. That's why it's so important to stop chasing the crowd and start searching for the few 20% who are actually worth building a life with. They exist, but they don't show up in your DMs every day. They're not always the loudest or the flashiest or the most Instagrammable, right? They're the ones who value depth over drama, who offer you peace instead of chaos. And unless you're clear on what really matters, you'll miss them every time. So let's break down the traits of those 20% women and how you can train yourself to recognize them before it's too late. She has emotional discipline. Let's get into one of the clearest markers of whether a woman belongs in that 20% or not. Emotional discipline. Now, I need you to really think about this. Have you ever dated a woman who would go from zero to volcanic eruption in a matter of seconds, all because you didn't reply her good morning text fast enough? Or maybe you forgot to compliment her, right? Her new hairstyle, and suddenly she's giving you the cold shoulder for 2 days straight, like you just cheated on her, right? It's not passion. And no, that's certainly not just how women are. It's emotional maturity, and it's a liability in any serious relationship because the deal is life gets real. There will be stress. There will be misunderstandings. There will be moments where emotions will run high. It's inevitable. And the last thing you need is a woman who adds gasoline to the fire every single time something just doesn't go her way. Emotional discipline is the ability to feel things deeply without losing control. It's what separates a woman who can handle the heat of a real relationship from the one who just crumbles at the slightest discomfort. The 80%. They'll hit you with impulsive rants, silent treatment, guilt trips, tantrums, then say, well, that's just how I express myself. The 20, they'll pause, they reflect, they respond, and not react. They understand that not every feeling needs to be acted on immediately, and that sometimes the most powerful thing that you can do is to stay calm. Now, let me tell you about this instance I had with this guy that I coached in recent days. I mean, sounds like a great guy, ambitious. He's emotionally grounded from what I picked up. He started seeing this woman who on the surface was everything he wanted. Beautiful, attractive, smart, fun to be around. But every time they had this minor disagreement, she'll spiral, cry, slam doors, threaten to leave, post cryptic messages on social media, all over minor issues like, hi, spending too much time at the gym or not picking up on her unspoken needs. Right? Eventually, he realized something interesting. He wasn't in a relationship, but in an emotional hostage situation. A woman worth committing to isn't the one who never gets upset. She's the one who knows how to regulate herself when she does. She can hold a difficult conversation without raising her voice. She can express disappointment without cutting you down. She can feel triggered and still choose to be kind to you. That's power, it's maturity. And that's the kind of woman who makes your life easier and not more complicated. So, you want to ask yourself this. Can she disagree with me without punishing me emotionally? Can she talk through tension without the need to win the argument? Can she have a bad day without making it your fault? If the answer is yes, then you might just be looking at a 20% woman. If not, well, you already know. Let's move on to the next marker. A high-value woman will never AQ choose between her and your mission. So let's talk about your mission, your goals, your grind, your purpose, right? The thing that gets you up in the morning and keeps you going even when everything feels like it's just falling apart. Now, if she doesn't respect your mission, the truth is she will resent it, okay? And that resentment will slowly destroy your drive, your ambition, etc., from the inside out. And here's what most men get wrong. They think that choosing love means basically putting their own goals on the back burner, right? So they start showing up less for themselves, saying yes to things that they'd emotionally say no to, things like that. You know, spending time they don't have just to keep the peace in the relationship. And what do they get in return? More complaints, more guilt trips, more questions like, oh, why are you always working? Why do you care more about your business than me? Do you even want to spend time with me anymore? Now, if these sound familiar, the wrong woman, the 80%, wants to be your mission. She wants to be the center of your universe, not because she loves you, but because it makes her feel important. A woman in the 20%, however, doesn't need to compete with your goals because she's secure in herself. She gets it. She knows that a man without purpose becomes a man without peace, and she doesn't want to be the reason that you lose yourself. So instead of saying something like, well, why are you always busy? She says, what can I do to support you this week? Instead of whining when you're tired, she brings you food, gives you space, lets you recharge. You weren't put on this earth to prove yourself to someone who doesn't understand the weight that you carry, right? If she tries to make you feel bad for building something that matters to you, right, then she's not the one, because a woman who respects your mission isn't a distraction. She becomes your anchor, right? She brings calm when life gets chaotic. She reminds you of who you are when you start to doubt yourself. And this happens from time to time, right? She celebrates your wins. If you lose, she's right there saying, all right, babe, let's regroup, right? Best part, she's building her own life alongside you as well. She's not just sitting around waiting for your attention like oxygen, right? She's working, she's growing, she's creating, which means when you're busy chasing your goals, she's not nagging you because she's running a race too. That's what a real partnership looks like. And if you've ever been with someone who constantly made you feel guilty for doing the very things that make you a better man, it's time to make some hard choices. Let's move on to the next trait of a top-tier woman. She's loyal even when no one is watching. Let's talk about one of the most underrated signs of a high-value woman. My opinion, that's loyalty. And I don't just mean she doesn't cheat because that's like bare minimum. I'm talking AB. Out the kind of loyalty that shows up when you're not in the room. Loyalty isn't proven when things are perfect. It's revealed when things get inconvenient, when temptation shows up, when no one is around to keep her accountable. The 80%, they're loyal when it's easy, when everything's going well, when you're giving them attention, the gifts, the Instagrammable moments. But the second you hit a rough patch, or you're not available 24/7, or you have to focus on, say, your business for a week, they start looking for attention elsewhere. They'll call up that friend who's been waiting in the wings. They'll start posting thirst traps with captions like, unbothered, right? They'll open up the DM floodgates and start replying to harmless compliments, all while telling you, well, it's not a big deal. Wrong. It is a big deal, because loyalty isn't just physical. It's emotional. It's energetic. It's relational, right? The women in the top 20% don't entertain men behind your back. Remember that, hey, don't play games. They don't flirt with the idea of being single just to be validated by others. And they sure as hell don't let outsiders disrespect the relationship just to keep the peace. Let me put it like this. A loyal woman defends you in rooms that you'll never step into. She shuts down rumors. She holds the boundary when you're not there to enforce it. She protects your name like it's her own. So ask yourself, does your woman protect your image when you're not around? Does she shut down disrespect even from her friends or family? Or does she play both sides and say, oh, I just didn't want to cause drama? If she's afraid to defend you, if she lets people disrespect you in her presence, if she keeps options on the side just in case the relationship doesn't work, then she's not loyal, she's strategic. And that's the difference between someone who loves you and someone who's using you until something better comes along. And it's very common. You see, loyalty is quiet, it's consistent, and most of all, it's invisible until it's tested. The 20% will pass the test. The 80% will fold the moment that it gets inconvenient. Trust me, she's coachable. Now, before you misunderstand me, I'm not saying that you should be out here trying to mold or control women. No. I'm not talking about dominance, submission, or turning her into your little puppet. This isn't about ego. It's about growth, maturity, and teamwork. Now, coachability means this. She's open to feedback. She's willing to evolve. She listens not just to respond, but to understand. And my guy, that right there is rare. Because, let's be real, most people, not just women, get defensive the moment you suggest anything that sounds remotely like criticism. You bring up a concern, and suddenly you're controlling. You're not accepting her for who she is. Or the classic, you're trying to change who I am. Thing is, you should want to change. In fact, both of you, because if neither of you is owing, it means the relationship is dying. If she's committed to staying exactly who she was on day one, then she's committed to stagnation and not partnership. The top 20% of women understand this. They know that love requires constant adjustment, communication, and the willingness to adopt. Let's say you tell her, hey, I really appreciate it when you check in with me during the day. It helps me feel more connected. A coachable woman won't say, oh, you're so needy. She'll say, got it, that's important to you. Okay, I'll be more mindful. Or maybe you say, when you speak to me like that in front of my friends, it makes me feel disrespected. She doesn't say, oh, you're just insecure. She says, I didn't realize I came off that way. Thanks for telling me. That's a woman who's emotionally intelligent, humble, and secure enough to grow inside a relationship. She's not perfect. She wants to be better. The women who make great partners don't just look good. They don't just feel G. They get better over time through communication, through shared vision. So, the question here worth asking, if you ask me, is can she take correction without collapsing? Can she hold space for your needs without making it about her? Can she have the humility to say, I was wrong, without turning it into a power struggle? If yes, then you've got gold. If not, then you've got a ticking time bomb. She has her own standards. So this is a trait that separates women of substance from a woman who just looks good on paper, right? She has her own standards. Not your standards, not society's standards, but her own. And that's more powerful than you think, because the reality is a woman who has no standards will accept just anything. Attention from anyone, behavior from anyone, validation from anywhere. You know, she's always reacting, never deciding, always adjusting herself to be liked, never standing firm in who she is. That kind of woman will be exhausting to date because she's like a social chameleon. She changes depending on who's watching, what's trending, or what man she's, trying to impress today. And while she may be fun for a fling, you can't build with someone who doesn't know who she is. But a woman in the 20%, she's already built her value before he showed up. She has direction. She has a code. She has principles. She lives by them, not just tweets about them. Let me show you what this looks like in real life real quick. She doesn't dress for attention. She dresses for confidence. She doesn't accept disrespect from her friends, her boss, or even you. Yeah, not even you, right? She doesn't get hyped by every DM because she's not emotionally starving for male attention and validation. She doesn't jump into a relationship just because she's lonely. She chooses connection intentionally. This kind of woman will check herself before you ever have to. Why? Because she's guided by a sense of self-respect that doesn't depend on whether or not. You're there and watching. You don't have to babysit her. You don't have to constantly define the boundaries. She has her own. She's not easily swayed by clout, chaos, or clowns. You heard that right. And the game changer is because she respects herself, she'll respect you. She'll hold you accountable without emasculating you. She'll challenge you without competing with you. And she'll call you higher, not by nagging, but by simply being a woman worth rising for. Right? Most men don't know what to do when they meet a woman like this. She doesn't need them. She doesn't chase them. She doesn't manipulate with games or sex or silence. None of that stuff. She just chooses you on purpose. And that choice means something because she's not out there saying yes to just anyone. A woman with standards forces you to rise. A woman without them lets you stay stuck. So, which one do you want by your side when life gets real? If you want to commit to someone long-term, make sure she's already calm. Committed to herself. If she has no discipline, no direction, no depth, you'll spend the entire relationship trying to drag her towards a vision that she never had in the first place. And I tell you, that will be exhausting. Hope you got value from this video. My name is Jessica OS. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you catch me in the next one. Cheers.